Invite viewers to post their location and local time. The afternoon sunlight slants through the dusty windows of Roosevelt Middle School's advanced mathematics room, catching motes in the air like suspended gold. Mr. Harold Whitman stands at the front, half-bald head gleaming under buzzing fluorescence, scanning the seventh graders like a security guard inspecting counterfeit bills. His mustache twitches sideways, a bad sign, until his eyes find Marcus Johnson, the lone black student in the class. That twitch sharpens into a smirk, and the room seems to lose 5 degrees of warmth. "Today," he says, savoring each syllable like he's reading out a prison sentence, "we separate the gifted from the accidental attendees." He pivots to the board, scribbling a monstrosity of loops, squiggles, and integral symbols that could make a calculus professor cry. Historians still argue whether this was an authentic test of skill or just an ego trip disguised as education. Sarah Chun, the class valedictorian in training, stares wide-eyed. Tommy Rodriguez, Marcus's desk mate, mutters something unprintable in Spanish under his breath. This isn't a pop quiz, it's a mathematical Everest. Whitman turns back, that smirk widening. "Marcus, why don't you show us what affirmative action can do?" A couple of kids gasp. One kid in the back almost drops his pencil. The teacher ups the stakes with the kind of bet you only make when you think the other person will fail his entire year's salary. 85 grand. More than Marcus's family has ever. Whitman doesn't even finish the insult before a hush drops over the room. Marcus looks up, steady as a cat eyeing a rocking chair, and says quietly, "I'll need about 20 minutes. Somewhere a clock ticks. Whitman laughs like someone just told him the moon is made of cheese, though. Fun fact. Medieval monks once debated whether it was made of cheese or crystal. Marcus stands chalk in hand and begins. His strokes are deliberate, almost hypnotic, breaking the monster equation into manageable creatures. Whitman hovers, spouting half-jokes about false confidence, but Sarah's sharp eyes catch at first. Marcus isn't doodling. He's dissecting. Tommy leans forward, recognizing the same look Marcus gets when cornering him in chess. Quiet concentration, like a hawk on a warm-up draft. And under it all, that calm, not defiance, not fear, just the stillness of someone who knows exactly what they're about to do. The chalk keeps moving, a soft, steady rhythm like rain on an old tin roof. Line after line appears neat, precise, each one building on the last, until the board begins to look less like a trap and more like a map. Sarah's phone is already recording under her desk. Tommy's got his out too. Both convinced historians will still argue whether this moment was a miracle of education or just karma in mathematical form. Whitman circles like a shark that's read too many motivational posters, muttering about graduate-level work and lucky guesses. But the longer he talks, the more his confidence frays. Marcus pauses, chalk hovering, then calmly explains without turning around that integration by parts alone won't work here because of the nested functions. You need to transform the equation first. The room goes silent. Even the HVAC seems to stop humming. Whitman's face flushes red, and if embarrassment were a renewable energy source, Roosevelt Middle could run the lights for a week. Principal Evelyn Carter appears in the doorway, drawn by the raised voices. She's the kind of person whose presence rearranges the room's gravity. "Continue," she tells Marcus, taking a position where she can see every mark on the board. He does, a little more confidently now, and the equation unfurls under his hand like it's been waiting years for him to solve it. Several students sneak looks up formulas on their phones and realize with dawning a wheeze, not copying. He's creating. When he finally circles the answer, there's still 5 minutes left on his own deadline. He turns, face calm, eyes bright. "You said your salary, Mr. Whitman. Did you mean it?" The question hangs there, heavier than the problem itself. Whitman stammers about figures of speech, but Marcus presses, and the power shift is complete suddenly. The teacher's the one being tested. By the time Marcus's parents arrive, Dr. Amelia Johnson, MIT mathematics professor, and James Johnson, aerospace engineer, the board is a cathedral of logic, each step like stained glass. Amelia scans it in a glance and nods. "Fixed point iteration," she says approvingly, "elegant choice." The word elegant is the nail in the coffin. Students begin speaking up. Tommy, Sarah, even Jennifer in the back sharing their own stories of Whitman's comments, the little cuts they'd learned to ignore. It's no longer one student's humiliation. It's a reckoning, and the principal is taking notes. Somewhere in the corner, Whitman looks like he's aged a decade in an hour. The reckoning doesn't end in the classroom. Within days, the boardroom is packed parents, reporters, even former students who've driven hours to speak. Testimonies roll in. Maria Rodriguez told at 13 she'd never make it in engineering. Now an MIT graduate. James Park warned his people were good at repetition, not innovation, now the holder of a medical patent. Historians still argue whether Whitman's expression during these speeches was shame or the dawning realization that he'd underestimated half his career's worth of students. The board votes to terminate him, but Marcus, in a move that stuns the room, says the $85,000 should fund scholarships for underrepresented students in STEM. It's not forgiveness, it's redirecting the insult into opportunity. Professor Chun from MIT dials in to confirm Marcus's genius, but reminds everyone that childhood should never be the price of talent. It's the kind of statement you want carved over every school entrance. Months pass. The Marcus Johnson protocols roll out across the district bias training, regular grading audits, and a celebration of multiple intelligences that turns the gym into a carnival of human potential. Marcus stands beside the now-framed equation, but what visitors really crowd around is the possibility wall plastered with photos and letters from students who'd once been told you can't and now had proof they could. When Whitman finally returns not as a teacher, but as a volunteer tutor at the community center's quieter, stripped of the old armor, he hands Marcus the first installment for the scholarship fund and admits, the problem wasn't the equation. It was the one in my head. Marcus shakes his hand, then keeps solving it, he says. The handshake is brief, but you can almost hear the gears of change grinding into motion. As the day's event winds down, Tommy unveils a mural equations twining with musical notes, poetry wrapped around gears, every color bleeding into the next. Sarah reads an essay. The greatest tragedy isn't when gifts go unrecognized, but when we're convinced they don't exist. The applause is thunderous, but Marcus, ever the quiet center of the storm, slips away to his old classroom. On the wall now is his own quote. Everyone can solve something. The trick is finding the right problem. Wind down. The sunlight in the empty room pools across the desks, catching in the dust motes like slow-moving stars. Outside, the faint echoes of laughter and music fade into the gentle hum of the building settling for the night. Marcus stands for a moment in the doorway, letting the stillness stretch, feeling the air warm against his skin. In another life, this might have been the room where he learned to shrink himself. Now, it's the place where his story opened into countless others. His fingers trace the smooth edge of the chalk tray, not to hold on, but to let go. Tomorrow there will be more problems to solve, some on paper, some in the world beyond the schoolyard. And that's all right, solutions don't have to be loud to last. In the hush, you could almost believe the room is breathing with him, steady and calm, waiting for the next equation to take shape.